Do you have a clicker or
I can go ahead and give you this, and then you can just, this can be a quick color.
Sure.
So either the arrow or the space bar.
So, excuse me, can I record you?
I actually got a recording.
She was going to record also.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Yeah. Everybody wants to record.
Well, we have with us today Audrey Brassey with the Department of Fish and Game. She's going to talk to us about the rules and regulations that the Fish and Game currently have in place to help support and protect our fishing environment. So, Audrey, the floor is yours.
Okay, awesome. So just a little background on myself. So I've worked for the department for about 20 years. I've worked for commercial fisheries, sport fisheries, and also for Habitat. That's what I currently work for. I'm the regional supervisor here in Fairbanks. I've spent the majority of my career up here in the interior, but I've also worked down in Southeast as well. So I've got a pretty good perspective on most of the state. So our region up here, we're the Fairbanks office, but we pretty much cover anything from just north of Mat-Su out to the Kuskokwim. So Donlin is one of our projects, all the way to the North Slope. So we're covering all kinds of activities, whether it's mining, oil and gas, lots of roads, of course, and then just a lot of individuals who are doing projects as well. So I'm just going to kind of walk through how our permitting process works. Might be a little dull for first thing in the morning, but hopefully I've got some good pictures in here that might be able to help you out and keep everybody awake. So I'm going to go through our division. When do you actually need a Title 16 or a fish habitat permit? What our current statutes are and the regulations that authorize that. What you have to do if you actually want to acquire a fish habitat permit. Examples of an application and some different projects to give you some real world examples. And then what happens if you don't get a permit or you don't comply with your permits. All right, so Fish and Game Habitat, we're responsible for permitting all projects within Alaska that are proposed to occur within fish-bearing waters or special areas. Here in the interior, we only have two special areas. That's the Minto Flats State Game Refuge and then also Creamer's Field. Down in South Central, they have a lot more critical habitat areas, but we only have two. But any kind of activities that go on in those special areas, we do all the permitting for that. And then all fish-bearing waters throughout the state. We also coordinate fish and game comments for large projects, things such as GMT2, the Alaska LNG project, the Donlin Mine that we just talked about a little bit, Ambler Road, the Kivalina Road for the evacuation route, timber and material sales. Those are all like the big things. That's where you maybe have some wildlife concerns as well. So we're going to be coordinating all the comments for fish and game, not just fish issues. Other agencies that we work with are Alaska Department of Natural Resources, DNR, because they're the ones who authorize actually the water quantities that people can use. Dam safety, a lot of our mines have got dams associated with them, so they're the ones who are doing that. We coordinate with them. And then land use that comes under DNR's purview. We also work with the Alaska Department of Environmental Conservation, DEC. That's for water quality, discharge, APDS. Maybe you've heard of those kind of permits when people are discharging out into the rivers, possibly sewage. The mines doing discharge, they have to have discharge permits. So we're doing a lot of working with DEC to make sure that the water quality stays good for fish. And the humans, of course, too, but we're more concerned about fish. They worry about people. And then, of course, we work with the different federal agencies for the large projects. The Army Corps, because they, of course, doing our all fill and wetlands, Fish and Wildlife Service, the Park Service, and the BLM. So we work with a lot of different folks. Here's some examples of different things that we issue permits for. Activities such as suction dredging, bank stabilization, down here on the Chena, you've seen evidence, that sort of thing. Dams, not so much up here in the interior, except where it's associated with mining. That's more of a southeast type activity. Fish weirs, culverts, fish crossings of streams and rivers, water withdrawals that happens on almost any kind of industrial project, and construction of bridges. These are just a few examples. So you might also hear when people talk about fish habitat permits, they're often called Title 16 or 841s or 871s. So So those are just a lot of different terms that get thrown out. And that refers to the different regulations that we have. So how do you know if there's fish where you want to do your work? Well, sometimes you just know, you're a fisherman, maybe are aware of that, but always call your local office if you're not sure, and we can help you out. So there's our number, Fish and Game here in Fairbanks. We also have a website that's got really good resources on it, the Fish Resource Monitor and the Anadromous Waters Catalog. You may have heard that mentioned a lot with these recent initiatives out there. That's where we've gone out throughout the state and mapped where anadromous fish are located. And we also have paper maps as well. So, but those two things are available online, and we can point you in the right direction if you're interested in looking for yourself. Here's our offices located throughout the state. As you can see, where Fairbanks is, and our area is the majority of the states. We also have the majority of the activities that are going on there. Kenai, is a pretty small area, but they have a lot of anadromous waters, of course, down there, so they're very busy as well. This is the Fish Resource Monitor I just mentioned. This is what, if you go to the website, this is what it looks like, and you can click on it, and you'll see over on the right-hand side there. This is something like COR, that's coho rearing, so you can kind of know what kind of fish are there, whether they're adults or they're juveniles. This is just a snapshot for you to see what it looks like. But you can also see in that upper picture of the state of Alaska and all the blue lines, there's a lot of water that's designated as anadromous throughout the state. And we just have a lot of water up here.
And that all is designated as anadromous?
For that picture there, yeah, that's all anadromous. Those are all anadromous waters there.
Gotcha.
So
I got a question for you. You went back a couple slides back. I'm in the guiding industry, so when we go on federal lands, the officers, whether they're BLM or Fish and Wildlife, they said, well, you can't cross the salmon stream, but under the laws, if we carry a boat with our Argo, we can cross. But do you guys handle cases like that?
Oh, we would issue a permit for you to
Yeah,
cross.
that's what okay.
Yeah, so they may be saying you can't cross because you don't have a permit in place.
Oh,
But if you apply for a permit with us, then you'd be authorized to go across it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So some in the guides, we don't know these rules.
Yeah. So we actually issue a fair number of stream crossings for hunters in the fall. We have simple over-the-counter ones for people who just want to do four-wheelers. But if you have something bigger, I'm not sure what you might have, but
Argo.
Yeah, and Argo is usually under the four-wheeler designation. It's like an ATV. So I think it's I have to take a look at it. It's less than 10,000 pounds. There's a certain poundage limit on it that we've got, but I can't remember off the top of my head what it is. But yeah, they're super easy to get. So the maps we have out there, the categories of fish use that we're looking at, it's not just whether the fish are present or not. That can certainly be the case. But we want to know if they're spawning in that area, just rearing, or is it just a migration corridor? And all those different things will trigger different stipulations for what kind of what stipulations we may put on a permit. Spawning is pretty much the most critical thing because spawning habitat, of course, if it's disturbed, that can have long-term consequences. But if it's just a migration corridor, it can be pretty easy to permit activities there. So this is our statutory authority, the Fishway Act. So the AS is Alaska statute, and then the Anadromous Fish Act. This is 871. So first we'll talk about 841, which is the Fishway Act. This is requiring basically that fish passage has to be maintained in all waters of the state. So this is all the legal language up here, but the parts in yellow are what the important thing is. If you're going to put in a dam or other obstruction, which can include culverts, and it's frequented by salmon or other fish. So this covers all fish throughout Alaska, not just anadromous fish. They have to provide an efficient fishway for fishing passage for downstream migrants. And then the other part of the Fishway Act is that it should be maintained basically forever. So you can't just put a culvert in and then walk away from it. You have to make sure that maintains passage. There's a little bit more talking about maintaining passage. You can see here in these two pictures, these two culverts obviously are not doing their job anymore. They're not maintaining passage, so they need to have some maintenance done on them. Sometimes it can't happen immediately because it's awfully expensive to replace a culvert, especially a big one. But we'll work with DOT and identify, okay, these culverts have got particular issues. We know they're not passing fish, so when you guys get around to working on this road, we'd like to see this culvert replaced as well. Maybe put a bridge in, you know, maybe put a bigger culvert. Culvert technology has changed a lot over the years, so we don't always just have those round culverts anymore. We have open bottom ones, lots of different options. So the strengths of the Fishway Act are it applies to all fish-bearing streams, both resident and anadromous. Resident fish are the non-anadromous fish, and all fish species. And it requires that fish passage be maintained for the life of the structure, which is really good. The limitations, it only applies to fish passage. So if they're going to be doing anything with the vegetation and this regulation does not cover that. Fish passage has to be maintained both upstream and downstream. It affects all life stages of fish, and flow doesn't equate necessarily to fish passage. So just because you've got water pushing through a pipe doesn't mean that it's good for it. It might be, the velocity might be too high. So those are different things that we're looking at, because there could be velocity barriers, not just like a dam barrier. So these are all things that we consider when we're issuing permits and what folks want to do. So here's some examples of resident fish, just for folks who may not be as familiar. So we, of course, got grayling, rainbows, pike, char. That's up there at the top, that's a small grayling fry. So these are all the different guys we're thinking about when we're issuing our permits. And then, of course, you have sculpins, stickleback, blackfish, whitefish, ciscoes, lake trout, burbot, sheefish. These are just all the different fish that we got for resident species. All right, so now we'll move on to the Anadromous Fish Act. So this is the one you hear the most discussion about these days, where they're talking about anadromous fish. So anadromous fish are not just salmon. Anadromous fish are also species such as steelhead. Down southeast they have anadromous cutthroats, some whitefish go out to the ocean and come back. Sheefish, some of them go out to the ocean and come back. Lampreys do. So when you're talking about this act, you're not just talking about salmon, but that's what a lot of people have couched it as, the stand for salmon group. So any project that you want to do, it's got the whole listing there in yellow, basically is going to require a fish habitat permit if you're working in an anadromous stream. So and this right here is where it talks about our authorities, that we will approve the construction as long as it's sufficient for the proper protection of fish and game. So this is the part where people get a little bit hung up on, because they tend to think that we're just going to rubber stamp projects as they come through, but I'll be talking about that's not the case. That's not how we do it. So the strengths of this act is that it does apply to a lot of different activities, and it applies to any life stage of anadromous species. The limitations are it's only below ordinary high water, and it's freshwater only, so this does not reach out into marine waters at all, which up to here in the interior is not much of a concern, but down in southeast they sometimes run into some tricky things because they have a lot of marine interface down there. And the water body must also be identified in the Anadromous Waters Catalog for us to put these protections on when we're issuing permits. I can't remember what this slide was about, but so we got anadromous fish there. Obviously, those are salmon, and then
Must have a bug in it or something.
yeah. So that's a bug. I think that's just to say, because we the Anadromous Fish Act, it also covers the habitat as well. It's not just the fish. So we're looking at their food as well. So it's kind of an important thing. Here's a picture of anadromous fish. Of course, you have all the salmon, char also. Some are anadromous, some are not. That's the guys with the pink.
It's hard to tell which ones are and which ones aren't.
Yeah. So up in the like on the Kobuk drainage, there's actually Dolly Varden. Some are anadromous and some are resident species. So it's really interesting. They have to do a lot of genetics on some of those fish, and these little isolated populations. They only get like this big. They're only like 6 inches long, and that's a fully adult fish. And then you have the big giant ones that, of course, those are the ones going out to the ocean, and they're salmon sized. All right, so now we'll walk through the general habitat permitting process to explain how we actually go about doing this. There's several steps. We've got the initial consultation with the applicant coming in, them actually filling out the application, drafting the permit, issuing the permit, and then following up and doing site visits. And this can be this process varies. People say, well, how long does it take to get a permit? Well, it can be anywhere from like a simple one-day permit when we walk in. It's a super simple project. We just issue it right there. We don't even have to do any follow-up. We just, that's the way it is. Other ones can take years to get done. So that's one of the things that has been mentioned a lot is that our permits, like on average, they take 3.5 days or something like that. Well, that's an average. Like I said, some take, an hour. Other ones take years. So first step, contact your local office. We always say just contact us first. Don't make any assumptions. Phone, email, or in person. We've got offices all throughout the state. Describe to us your project. These are the important things we need to know. The location, what you're planning on doing, and then the timing of it, because that's pretty critical to know what fish may be impacted and what life stage. And then we will evaluate what kind of permit is needed, if any. Sometimes people come in and they talk to us about their project, and we don't even have to issue a permit. We're like, oh no, that's not going to impact fish. You're good to go, and we'll give you a written authorization about that too, so you can say, oh, I already talked to Fish and Game. They said we're good. Or we'll say, oh, nope, you're going to need either 871 or 841, depending if there's anadromous habitat or not. So if you do require a permit, we're going to fill out an application. Or we can actually just do it in email because our habitat permits are pretty long and drawn out. They're really designed for big industrial projects. If you're just doing a small project in your backyard, you don't necessarily have to fill out that whole big thing. But you send us the information, email, or verbally. We really prefer written though, so we actually have documentation of it for the long run. Please provide enough information so we can assess the project and its potential impacts. And photos are great, especially we have such a huge area of the state and we have a very small staff. So for us to get all over to these areas is really difficult. So nowadays people all have, pick up your phone, snap a picture, include that with your application. That'll help us out a lot. So here's the application I mentioned. It's pretty long and drawn out. You can certainly fill it out for any project, but it's not, we don't necessarily need all this information for every single project out there. Here's some examples of information that's included with the permit lots of times. This is a diversion project up off of the Kayakuk River. So they're basically showing us, okay, here's what the creek looks like right now. Here's where we're planning on diverting to. It's a mining project, so they're going to mine where the creek formerly was, and then they're going to make a new creek. And then here's a bridge project here in Fairbanks. This is DOT. So they were providing us, I think this is the University Bridge, what it currently looks like, what they want to do. They're going to put in some temporary structures. So the more information we can get, the better. And of course, these are for big projects. Most, like a homeowner, isn't necessarily going to have something quite this fancy. But hand-drawn pictures are just fine as well. Okay, so the next step is drafting the permit. So this is where we start doing our work. We start drafting it up. If we don't know anything about this water body, we may try and get out there to assess the fish presence, especially if it's a bigger project. So this is when we do this with DOT a lot, because we'll look at a map and we're like, well, it looks like there's probably fish passage because it's connected to a grayling stream or something. So we'll try and get out there, or maybe we'll even give DOT some fish traps and stuff so they can go and try and get the fish. Let us know what's going on. But like I said, we're some very remote parts of the state where we just can't get to, so we have to make some assumptions. We'll say, well, it's likely to have fish passage issues, so this is what we're going to do. If we have questions or concerns, we'll contact the applicant. We'll go back and forth. Let's say the applicant wants to put a culvert in an area where there's salmon spawning, and they want to do it during a spawning period. So at that point, we're going to say, okay, this is salmon spawning here. Is it possible we can change your window of working, do it in May instead of doing it in July? So this is when we're going back and forth with the applicant. We're not just going to rubber stamp what comes across. We're going to try and clarify when they can do the work that will best protect fish. So this is where we're working out the resolutions with the applicant. If we can't resolve those problems, then the applicant can amend their permit, or they could withdraw the application, or we may deny it. Usually the applicant's like, oh yeah, we know we can totally work with you. We can come up with a different time frame. We can maybe move our project a little further upriver or downriver, so we're not impacting fish passage at that certain location. And and it works out great. That's the back and forth on these permits. But if they're like, nope, absolutely not, we have to do it this certain way, then we're like, okay, we can deny a permit. We don't do it very often because usually we can work with the applicants because they just, a lot of times they don't know that there's fish there and it's a concern.
So on the note here, oh gosh, I'm sorry, I forgot what I was going to ask. I'll get back to it. Sorry.
Yeah, no worries. So this is another thing that gets brought up occasionally is that we don't deny very many permits. And it's true, we don't, but we also work a lot with the applicants to really make sure it's going to be protecting fish passage or fish habitat.
Oh, I got that question.
Yes.
So if there's BLM land and federal fish and wildlife land, and there's a placer mine right through it, or potential, if where I want to dredge, that's state waters, right? That's state land.
Yeah.
So I cannot get above the mean high water mark, and that would be federal land. Would that?
So if you're going to be mining, if you're mining in the uplands there, that's
the stream bed into bedrock.
Yeah. So the stream is our authorization.
Okay.
Yeah. So anything having to do with the water, we're going to be issuing the permits for that. And BLM, they may have some sort of a permitting process as well, but it's usually not just one permit you're getting. You're going to get a state permit, and then you'll probably have to get some sort of BLM permit. And chances are you're crossing BLM land to get to where you're going to be, so you'll require some sort of a land use permit as well. So there's a lot of different permits, and people say, oh, there's so many permits. Well, there are, but there's a lot of entities in Alaska involved, unfortunately. Sometimes you have private land that you need to cross, so you have to get with those landowners as well. All right, so if there's no problems, the applicant's open to changes in their scope of work to ensure that their fish passage and there's minimal impacts, we will issue the permit. We send it out via the mail or via email. Sometimes we actually send out hard copy permits these days, but usually it's via email. We often have stipulations associated with the permit. So it's, like I said, it's not rubber stamps saying, okay, yes, we authorize everything you're doing here. We may have a timing window identified that, okay, you can only work within this 3-week window because then the salmon are going to show up. We may require some revegetation, bank stabilization if they're doing like a big project, like a DOT project where they're putting in a new bridge. So they have to do some bank stabilization afterwards to make sure that everything stays in place. We don't end up with a bunch of silt in the river. If they're building ice bridges, they have to breach those in the springtime to make sure that they don't end up with a dam right there and the stream starts flowing around it in the spring. Screening water intakes, that's really common to make sure young fish juveniles aren't getting sucked up. And then sometimes we ask that local staff be notified prior to start. Especially, sometimes we're issuing these permits a couple years in advance. So once they're like, oh, okay, now we finally got the monies, we're going to go out and do the work, we want them to give us a call so we can go out and kind of check and see what the project looks like, if anything has changed. Once we mail it out, we want to make sure that the applicant checks it over, make sure we don't make any errors, because occasionally we do. And then they need to keep printed on site. So if anybody asks, they can show, yep, we've got our fish habitat permit. This is something that troopers can check. If we come on for a site visit, we'll want to make sure that they've got their permit there. So this is an example of what the permit looks like. Looks kind of like a memo. It's not like it's not like a fishing license or anything. It's a big multi-page document. All right, and our last step is we'll follow up and do site visits. We don't always do this. Like I said, if it's really remote, it's difficult for us to get there. But we've got some great applicants. That mining company I mentioned that's doing the diversion, they have a drone up on site, and they take drone pictures for me every summer, show me what it looks like, which is fantastic. That's what we want to hear. We want to have good communication with our applicants so we can identify if there's an issue, we can jump on it right away and get it corrected. Our goal is to keep the fish habitat in good condition. We don't want to be out there issuing fines to people. We want to make sure the fish habitat is maintained. So
what's happening in the middle picture?
So the middle picture there, those are called spike nets. So that's actually up at Red Dog. We're trying to catch the grayling as they're migrating through. So there we're doing it's a mark recapture project we call it, where it's we're putting tags in the fish to figure out what the population size is. Because at Red Dog, as you may or may not know, prior to the mine going in, they had really poor water quality, and now it's actually a lot better than it used to be. And there's an area where the grayling spawn. So we go there every year and we go to the fish. That's what we were trying to do last week. but the water was considerably higher than that. That's an ideal condition right there.
Yeah.
It was not good last week when we were up there.
That's a great example of a mining activity that took a watershed and made it better.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, some people don't realize that water quality at mines can often, before the mine goes in, the water quality can be bad, and that's why the mine went there, because it's mineralization.
Yeah.
It's natural, and there's one seep up there, we call it the Cub Creek Seep, and it's got this bright orange water that comes in, and it's got a lot of aluminum in it. So that area, there's no fish, because it's, it's toxic, but it's naturally, that has nothing to do with the current mining activities, so. But yes, this is some of the stuff we do in the summertime. Hannah was asking about this being a busy time of year, and yes, this is when we're getting out there and making our site visits, looking for fish. On the left there, those nets we're looking at the invertebrates, basically what the fish eat, the aquatic insects. So we capture those, bring them back to town, identify what's in the water. And on the right, we were looking for juvenile fish.
Is that the Woolwich that flows by the Red Dog?
The Woolwich, this right here, this is the North Fork, Red Dog Creek is where those nets are, and that eventually flows into the Woolwich. But it's not super close to the mine, but it's part of the Woolwich drainage, yeah. So we have exceptions to some of our permitting, and that's emergency authorizations, where we don't necessarily go through those 5 steps, or if we do, it's like a really, really fast version of going through the 5 steps. Usually it's when infrastructure is being threatened. This sometimes happens in the spring when we've got flooding, like up on the Hall Road 3 years ago, I think it was now, where all that water was flowing across. It's like, yeah, just do what you need to do to stabilize the road, and then we'll work later on to see if we correct if there were any damages to fish habitat. Typically, it's roads or bridges is where these emergency authorizations come in. We issue a few every year. Usually it's to DOT. So, but sometimes it's homeowners where their house is being threatened, or there might be some other things going on. The call us immediately. We'll verbally authorize the work, and then we'll deal with the paperwork later on. Here's an example. This is down in Delta a few years ago. You maybe heard about this. That actually made the news. This guy's house. He used to be on like a little side slough. Well, the river broke through, and then it started cutting away really dramatically, and he lost a ton of riverbank in front of his house. And he wanted to, of course, save his house. So we did an emergency authorization for him to go out there, do some work in river that time of year. This is right above a big spawning area, so it's a pretty sensitive area. But we were able to do some work with him to get him to stabilize his house. So it's still standing. He built this giant retaining wall. I should put in some new pictures, but it's pretty crazy what he was doing. But he was very concerned about losing his house. So, all right. So this is just a couple more things about our general permitting process. The large projects, they of course take multiple pre-application meetings and site visits. With the big projects, lots of times NEPA is involved. That's the National Environmental Protection Act, where you talk about EISs and EAs. This process can take years. This is going on right now. We have projects, EIS projects that are wrapping up for Donlin. That's pretty much done. The GMT2 up on the North Slope, the Amblin Road project is kind of in the start of this, and then of course the 1002 Anwar is just starting up as well. So we participate in all those different permitting processes, and as a state agency, we coordinate through the DNR Office of Project Management and Permitting. They coordinate comments for the entire state. So, fishing, we're not coordinating comments for DNR, but they will coordinate comments for DNR, DEC, and Fish and Game. So we put forward our state comments in one package, and that's what those guys do. The OP&P, you might hear it called. And that's just for large projects. Most of those folks are down in Anchorage. That's based on the Anchorage office. So enforcement. Let's say we get on site and somebody is not following their permit authorizations. So hey, have you read your permit? What you're doing here is not. And sometimes they're maybe they're not aware. They've got a contractor working. They haven't read their permit. Oh yeah. Okay. So ideally, like I said, we don't want to be issuing tickets to people. We can, but we want to see the habitat fixed. So usually we'll try and get it fixed on site. It's a minor thing. It's easy to fix. If they decide not to do it, or maybe the operator isn't there, we'll write a letter of non-compliance to them, notice a violation. Hopefully that'll get it fixed. If not, we can move forward with prosecution. These are all misdemeanor offenses when you're looking at habitat violations. It's a mandatory court appearance, it's on your record, and when you get a permit, you have to realize that you're responsible for the contractor's actions. So these are pretty important big deal permits. People, state of Alaska wanted to make sure that habitat was protected. Here's some examples of unauthorized activities that we've seen over the years. Sometimes people will put in a boat launch, especially to an Anadromous stream, which is great. That's fine. We can issue permits for that, but you have to get a permit because you can do some damage to the resources there. That culvert is not installed correctly. Someone is working in a stream without a permit. You know, sometimes people, they don't stabilize their equipment. It gets washed into the river. That's obviously a big no-no. And then unauthorized stream diversions as well. So ideally, we want to see these things get fixed. We just pulled a car out of the Chino this spring.
You can't park your truck like that?
No, you can't. I'm not sure what that guy was thinking. I know, isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
I think that was down in Southeast, that one. Yeah. But I mean, you know how these rivers can change so fast. People like put stuff up on the bank in the winter, and then it's all good, not realizing what's going to happen in the spring. So these numbers are a little bit outdated. This was fiscal year 16. How many permits we've issued. So we only have 25 habitat biologists across the whole state that are issuing all these permits. This is not just my office, it's the whole statewide. We issued almost 2,000 permits from July 1st, 2015 to 2016. Most of them are anadromous because we do have a lot of anadromous waters throughout the state. And about half again of that was for fish passage. Average review time is 4 days, but like I said, some of these can take years and years. And we don't count that whole time as issuing the permit. It's when we're actually working with the applicant. So just because we've had it on our desk for 6 months doesn't mean we count that as a 6-month work window. It's just, okay, we talk to the applicant here for 2 days and then maybe another day here. So if we count how long it's sitting on our desk, that'll take like months.
And how many of those habitat biologists do you have in the
in our office here? We have 7 biologists. Okay. Yeah, so it's really small staff. We used to be bigger, and then when administration several years ago, they took us out of Fish and Game and put us over with DNR. And when they did that, it really broke up our division a lot. And then when we came back to Fish and Game, we lost some of those biologists, and we never got them back. So unfortunately, some of our responsibilities are now housed in sport fish, and some are housed over at DNR. We have the majority of the authority still, but we didn't get our staff back, which is unfortunate, but it is what it is. We make it work. So we also have the special area permits, like I mentioned. That review time takes a little bit longer because there's a little bit more review. There's management plans associated with those that can take a little bit more time to get those authorized. And then we did 8 emergency authorizations in that particular year. So I've got some examples of some permitted projects to give you an idea of what these are all up here in the. I think most of the interior here in the interior. So there's some ice bridges. These are authorized down near Nenana. This was for the natural gas exploration they were doing a couple years ago. So this is an 841 stream. That means it's resident species only. Grayling are in here. So you see what it looks like when the water is flowing, and then when we had the ice bridge in. Like I said, this would have to be slotted in the springtime to ensure that the water didn't flow up and around there. Bank, rehab, and docks. This is down in the Kenai, but we've done work like this in the interior as well. Sometimes we just love our rivers to death, and we get a lot of destruction along the riverbanks where people are walking down areas they shouldn't. So we've installed areas like this for people to have designated areas. Okay, we'll let this part be damaged, but the rest of it we're going to keep people off of. So these are for water intakes and screening. You can see the screen on the left and the lower picture. Those are not authorized screens. They're obviously fish are stuck in the upper one, not ideal. And then the lower one, that's like a trash screen where it keeps out, the vegetation, but it doesn't necessarily keep out fish. So the screen on the right is what we like to see people have. It's got multiple different size meshes. It'll have a lower flow rate so the fish don't get sucked up in there. And you can use those in the summertime, or that's a winter picture, but obviously use them in the summer as well. Ice bridges, this is again down by Nenana, building across the Nenana River there, building up with the ice. They would have the screening on their water intakes for that. A channel diversion, here's another example. This may have been an emergency authorization almost. You can see that that cabin is being threatened there. So we authorized the diversion of the creek to protect the infrastructure that was in place. You know, the rivers up here just are so dynamic. They'll change all the time. They're not like lower 48 where things pretty much stay the same. So in conclusion, if your project is in or near water, give us a call. Call Fish and Game. If there are no fish, you will likely not need a permit, and we will also write you a letter saying that, like I said. If a fish habitat permit is required, it's free, it doesn't cost anything right now. Give as much project detail as possible, and bigger projects definitely take more time to process, so allow for that review time. So if you know you're going to have a big activity going on, don't just ask for it a month ahead of time, you know, talk to us months if you can. If you can't, that's understandable, these things happen, but give us as much time as possible. So that's pretty much my presentation, if you guys have some questions.
Well, I appreciate you coming and presenting, you know, what you're doing. One of the things that has really been starting all this is Stand for Alaska, and Stand for Salmon, and you know, we all like our salmon, we like our fish, and I think the fishing game, Alaska Department of Fish and Game, is doing a very good job in protecting our resources. And the Stand for Salmon people feel that Fish and Game is not doing their job, and there should be more restrictions. And where there are no fish, they still wanna, the Stand for Salmon group wants to put all streams as fish bearing, and that's would really kill our economy. And one example, of course, I brought up before was the Donellan Creek project. If that Stand for Salmon ballot measure goes through, they'll just walk away from it, and they spent billions of dollars on that project. It is kind of, you know, it's for the small miner, it is another layer of regulations, and it's not easy to do anything out there today. Not like it used to be in the old days, but I know Fish and Game, as well as the other agencies, do try to work with the small miner to, you know, help put the permitting system, you know, get it, you know, run through. And I think that's one of the big concerns that we in the state of Alaska have, because basically it will affect villages too. You know, any activity near or in a stream is going to require another layer of bureaucracy to monitor and regulate. So I think it's important to get the word out, and you know, it's kind of confusing, Stand for Salmon, Stand for Alaska, but you know, Stand for Alaska means that you're looking out after the interests of Alaska and Alaskans as far as being able to develop our resources. And as a youngster, I worked for the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service in Southeast Alaska. Was there during the times when the canneries pretty much controlled everything. You know, they had their fish traps, and you know, that had a definite effect on many of the streams in Southeast Alaska. So I think, you know, all in all need to be aware, and we need to talk to our people. You know, our friends, so that they know the facts. And I guess there's a court case which will be decided. It won't be decided until, you know, shortly before the election. And so we can't take anything for granted. Oh, well, thanks for, you know, the work you're doing.
Yeah, you brought up a good point. It's something I didn't mention is that our permits, we don't have any kind of public process with our fish habitat permits. So we don't put them out for public review. We don't, you know, get public feedback on them. When we're going through the EIS process and that's when there's public feedback. But for actual fish habitat permits, we don't have that. And that's one of the things that may potentially change depending on what happens with these, you know, the initiatives or what might go through the legislature. They've been asking for a public, some sort of public process with it, because DNR has got something like that on not all of their permits, but on some permits, and then DEC does as well. So people would like to see that, I guess. But that would definitely, we don't know how that would work because we've never had that installed, and we've also told, we put it forward with when the legislature had that bill going forward, they asked for the fiscal note for what it would cost us. And it would definitely require more staff time, and most of our staff are biologists. We all most of us have masters in fisheries. We're not public planners, you know, people who go and facilitate meetings. So we would be either, you know, hiring people who could do that or hiring consultants who could help us with that sort of thing, because this is not part of our skill set at this point. So.
Basically, the group that is supporting the Stand for Salmon deal are outside sources, and they're the multi-billionaires that are pumping money in to stop development in Alaska. I mean, it's not just affecting the mining industry, it's any kind of development in Alaska. And you know, I used to, in my younger years, I was a member of the Sierra Club, if you can believe that, and I supported what they were doing at that time. But it's being manipulated and controlled by forces outside the state of Alaska, and it's not to our benefit.
Okay. Thank you. That's great information and a good presentation.
Yeah. If you guys have any other questions or if you get feedback on this from any other members if they want to hear with different groups, but I've given the same presentation to a lot of different people recently, the last 6 months. So yeah, I'm happy to present it, or if people want to hear like a little more about part of it.
Yeah.
We just as a division, we're not coming out, you know, with Stand for Salmon or Stand for Alaska. This is what we do currently, and we're not really saying how it would change what we do either, because we don't really know. I mean, both of these initiative and the legislative one were kind of different. So it was hard to say what the final outcome was going to be.
I know, I wrote a letter for Stand for Alaska to the news miner and to ADN. And the native corporations, we've got in holdings, and that's our only deck of cards to play with from 71. And to protect our access, or, you know, whether we want to get oil or gas or minerals or, you know, create trails for tourism or anything, this inhibits our access. And I think it's, even local villagers from the nonprofits, they're told, well, you know, this is to protect your salmon, but everything's written in high standards of American English where nobody can understand it. They just trust certain people, like you go-to people. And I think getting the word out, especially to the villages, is critical, because they're thinking, well, they're protecting our salmon. Whereas, well, like Doyon or K-Corp, our village corporation, we need access to our in holdings. You know, we need mining and development and for jobs.
Yeah, we were actually contacted by the Division of Elections because they're trying to draft up for, you know, if this initiative does go forward on the ballot, they've got to be able to translate it to Gwich'in and Yupik. And so they were asking us, okay, well, how would you like describe this in really simple English? And it's not easy to do because you put it into simple English and then it gets translated to you know, a native language, and something's gonna get lost in the translation there. So when you say salmon, it's not just salmon, you know. Very difficult. It's a very complicated issue. That's what I think a lot of people are realizing the more they learn about this. So.
All right. Well, thank you.
Yeah, no problem at all. Glad to be here. Glad I found it.